Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tub Takes. This is a weekly, or whenever we feel like it, podcast where we talk about all the things that are happening in VGC. And I have a couple of special guests this week. So first and foremost, I am joined by your podcast host, favorite podcast host, Joe Brown. How you doing?
Thank you, Adi. I appreciate the introduction. It's nice to be on this end of a podcast instead of hosting it usually.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And then we're also joined by Austin Acosta. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you. And then we've also got the other person who got top four at Indy Regionals 2022. We got Alex. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I think we need to update the title. I'm working on that right now.
Ooh, I forgot about that. Sorry. It's been a while. It's been something like 3 weeks since we did a top takes, and so I guess I'm a little rusty. It's honestly been over a month. I've actually had to host one, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a dead period for VGC. It's in between the North American Championships and the World Championships, and I think this is actually a longer break than normal in that time period. And so as a result, we don't have a ton to talk about right now. All the Asian nationals are over. The something that we do have to talk about for VGC is the grassroots tours. And so Victor Rowe's been hosting a couple of those, but otherwise we are going to be talking about all the other stuff that we've been doing, all the other competitive endeavors that we've been kind of enjoying during this downtime, and how it relates to VGC, and how we can reflect on our experiences as Pokemon players on that. And so, yeah, let's jump into it. The first housekeeping thing is you should check out the Victory Road Road to Honolulu 2 tournament, which is happening this upcoming weekend. And so it's going to be another paid tournament with the world's structure and a decent amount of money on the line. So the last one is something that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, this is the some of the more competitive grassroots tournaments that are hopefully going to dictate what the metagame is going to look like going into Worlds. Anyone playing it?
Yeah,
Alex?
I don't know if I'm planning on making it out for this one, but it's still cool to see that we're getting like a chance to practice this, different world structure ahead of time. Like it is still a little bizarre, like just imagining it, like it's like 8 rounds on the first day, and then you do a couple more there, and then on the top cut bracket a little earlier than we've been doing since we've gotten the day 2 Swiss added. So things going to be a little bit strange, but they did it last time and it worked out. And regardless, yeah, the results are going to tell a decent amount about the metagame and inform what teams people are going to be most focused on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I guess before we go on to last week's Victory Road tournament, I got to congratulate Joe. I saw this after I invited you onto the podcast, but it looks like you're going to be doing a different competition this upcoming weekend with the Olympics starting this weekend, and you're going to be working on it. So congratulations for that.
Yeah, thank you. So this is my second Olympics. I worked the Beijing Olympics with NBC Sports back in the winter a couple of years ago. And for anyone who doesn't know, my job outside of Pokemon, I work as a video editor in sports. I've worked for different, Major League Baseball, NHL, different companies as a video producer and editor. So I'm gonna have a very busy next 3 weeks ahead of me. Long days covering. I think Alex looked up how many actual events there are in the Olympics this year, and it's a staggering amount of things. And NBC, to their credit, they cover, they edit, they produce content for every single event that is held at the Olympics. So it's a lot of bodies, a lot of people working really hard.
I don't know if we have any VGC players competing in this year or not. I remember there was somebody who was competing in some of the past years.
Yeah.
It was in like speed walking or something, I swear.
Well, there was the wrestler too, right? The guy was a collegiate wrestler.
Spencer Lee, he's my boy. He's gonna be competing. He qualified this year, I think, for the first time. So he's gonna be
nice.
wrestling there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Representing Team USA. And I don't know if there's any others, but I would be curious. I'm sure there are. I know. I saw in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, it made news that one of the track stars showed up with a dual disc at the Olympic track qualifiers with like all 5 pieces of Exodia or something like that. And so wouldn't shock me. Pokemon's popular. I know there's some VGC players out there or some Olympians out there who play VGC. Maybe we just haven't heard about it yet.
Mm-hmm. It'll be me one day. I'll get in there for pickleball. I've been playing a lot of pickleball lately. It's been very fun.
Oh,
Do they got pickleball at the Summer Olympics? Pickleball Olympics.
I don't think this one. Maybe in maybe 4 years from now, maybe it'll pick up enough popularity.
You could be the
Sounds like-
first gold medalist pickleball VGC player, Alex.
That's what. Yeah, I got to add one more thing to the shelf. Like I've got like a regional medal, but what is that? That pales in comparison to an Olympic medal for pickleball. Actually, pickleball did start here, like in Washington or something, and I'm looking at it. Like I think it's like still kind of new, so like I don't even know if it. They're saying like it would have to be added like at 2032 or something like that. Like I don't know. It's a while away, I guess. Before maybe it's not legit enough yet. Anyways, a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah. All right. Actually, while we're talking about the Olympics, I love the Olympics. I'm a huge sports fan, as you know. And Joe, I know you're a huge sports fan. Do you have a sport that you are most looking forward to covering during this Olympics?
That's a funny. All right. So this year, for the summer, I haven't found my sport yet. And when I did Beijing, we go through all the training and we learn how to cut every type of content, the different sports and how they work. All the producers are like, you're gonna find it. There's gonna be a sport you've never heard of in your life, and then you absolutely love it. And I'm like, nah, you guys are crazy. And then I found the winter biathlon, which for those who don't know, it's like skiing and shooting at the same time. So you ski like you do 1,000,000 laps, like I think it's like 20 miles long or whatever, and then you stop right before the end, and you have to lay down. You're all out of breath, and you have to shoot a pinpoint accurate like BB gun into your spot, and if you miss, it gets time added to your score, and then you got to stand up again and then like do ski another 20 miles and come all the way back, and it's just an absurd sport. Everybody is just tired. People are missing their shots because like they can't see straight, like and so they were my bosses were right. They're like, you're gonna fall in love with the sport you've never heard of before, so I'm excited to see what that summer sport is going to be for me this time.
Absolutely.
So that one is insane. Like I just don't know. I'm sure it's come from like some very old like tradition or something, but like it sounds so bizarre in a vacuum where it's just like, yeah, we're gonna do skiing and a bit of shooting like
It
together.
takes like 2.5 hours, and the only thing that matters is the 45 seconds each lap that you're shooting your gun. So like just the skiing is 98% of the event, but the other 2% is the most important thing that happens. It's so absurd.
Yeah.
Tired shooting.
I think I remember watching this during the Winter Olympics. It's like a military drill in Scandinavia or something that they turned into an event. Yeah. Alex,
Gotcha.
do you have a sport that you're most looking forward to watching this Olympics?
I don't actually know which ones they do or don't do in which sets of Olympics, besides the fact that I'm probably not going to see snowboarding at this, I think. But so I don't know. Are they doing ping pong? I'd be happy to watch some ping pong. That sounds lit.
They are, yeah. All right,
yeah. I'm gonna pick that one then.
Austin, what's your favorite sport in the Olympics?
I have never once watched the Olympics in my life. I've been shamed for that multiple times. I think the closest I ever got to was when I was dating a gymnast, and she was like, "We should watch gymnastics," and I was like, "Cool." And so I watched it. I was like, "Isn't for me."
We're gonna get you into it. We're gonna get you.
Yeah.
We're gonna hook you on like handball or something.
Handball is lit.
Handball is the sport for me that I discovered the Summer Olympics. I'm like, I get to watch this once every 4 years, but it is so much fun to watch. So
sorry, I don't even know what this. All right, what is handball? Like,
handball is a phenomenal sport.
What is it?
Is it soccer but with your hands?
So it's if soccer and basketball had a baby, kind of. But then also, you're not allowed to go into the goal zone, but people jump into the goal zone all the time because technically you can throw it before you land in the goal zone. So you can try to get closer right in the goalie's face. And it's super dramatic, and like it's a really athletic sport as well. Like you should definitely try to watch handball this summer.
It looks like it'd be a good spectator sport. Absolutely, this looks sick.
There's a lot of great like aerial shots of people like mid jump trying to launch this ball into goal.
Right.
Yeah.
is pretty
I
cool.
can support this.
It's fun to watch. It's like it's one of those sports where I wish we got to see what would happen if like LeBron James took a handball.
Exactly.
See what happens. You know. But yeah. So with that, let's talk about a little bit of Pokemon before we talk about some other games. We'll go back to talking about not Pokemon, which is really what I want to talk about personally. But yeah, there was the a Victory Road to Honolulu tournament. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before that we haven't had a chance to talk about. 280 players, and it had the world's structure. So 8 rounds of day 1, and then 2 rounds of day 2 into top cut. And yeah, we got some teams. So Alex, since you're here to talk about Pokemon, right? Why don't you lead us off? What happened in Victory Road?
Yeah, for sure. So, really quick, just checking: are we going to be 2 or 3 rounds at Worlds? What are we expecting for the after the 8 on day 1?
It depends on how many people show up. I think.
Are we like on? You think we're on the line or something?
The line is 500 and something, I believe.
No way we have 500 and something masters, do we?
There were like 250 invites from North America.
Alone.
Yeah. Like we might get
But
there.
wait, there's nothing. Oh gosh, it does sound kind of like on the line. All right, so we're at 2 or 3. Anyways, this one had 2, and yeah, it was won by Fede Campo, who got top 4 at Worlds last year. Definitely a competitor to be watching out for. With a solid $950 prizing here. I think it was just $10 entry, so decent incentive to do well in this thing. And so you're going to see some people doing some early testing of ideas that maybe are close to what they want to do for Worlds. A lot of people are not a lot of people, but there's not 100% of people that are like trying to keep their Worlds idea completely under wraps. There are people who are willing to beta test something close to it, and I think a lot of the teams here do demonstrate like what people are looking at. The more telling thing, I think, is the like 3rd, 4th, 5th place teams. Where they show that there's 3 Miraidons there. They're all Miraidon teams, and the Terra is no longer electric. They're all fairy. This is the main thing I've been trying to like point out to people, is that fairy Miraidon is absolutely on the rise, and it's in large part to make Miraidon deal with its counters a lot easier. Because Miraidon only has one weakness when it Terra Electrics. It keeps that ground weakness that it has. It sheds off the fairy, the dragon, the ice weaknesses that are all pretty important to get rid of. But and so then you don't really care about still being weak to ground. But what Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam does for you is it makes it so that Miraidon starts to beat Raging Bolt. It starts to beat Iron Hands. And it also does well into some Pokemon that are naturally immune to electric, like, Ursaluna Blood Moon, or I guess the other Ursaluna, or Landorus, or whatever else have you. It also does some solid damage to Rillaboom and other things. Like, Dazzling Gleam is just a very consistent option that is very non-committal and deals with its main counter. So I think that we'll probably see that be the more popular route for Miraidon going into Worlds.
Yeah, it feels like every team has a Terra ground now, right? Everyone's kind of respected that Terra Electric Miraidon that got so popular, and so it is even you can see this team, right? If you Terra ground the Chiyu, all of a sudden having coverage like Dazzling Gleam is going to make it a lot stronger. I also noticed the choice band Urshifu on this team. That's something else that I've seen popping up more and more. It wasn't really a thing going into the North American Championships, but I think maybe because of the rise of Grimmsnarl just being so much more common now after Aurelian did so well with it. The choice band on Urshifu is also something that I'm expecting to pick up in usage a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because these 3 teams all outline the different routes you can go. There's a very like formulaic approach here where you have Giraffe in hands on all versions at this point in the game. You can pick your fire type, Chi-Yu, Entei, Ogerpon. Some people run like Volcarona as well. You can pick your Prankster. You can pick your Rosicott, your Grimmsnarl, or your Tornadus. That's on all 3 of these represented. And Grimmsnarl and Whimsicott definitely have a little more in common, being Prankster Tailwind setters. Grimmsnarl, a bit of a different approach, but you can see that's kind of the slot with that one is dedicated to Prankster, I guess. And then you have your bear, like Urshifu is a bear, right? Ursaluna a bear, Urshifu a bear. So like and like there's both types here. There's Urshifu, the water one that finished in 3rd. The 5th place one is dark, and then there's the normal type bear in 4th there in the middle. You really can use any of them there, and it will have different strengths and weaknesses. You could definitely pick and choose different elements across these and kind of smash them all together, decide what you want your 6 Pokemon to be on the Miraidon teams. But yeah, it's pretty cool that like they're kind of centralizing, but not in a different way. They definitely have pros and cons, absolutely. But yeah, that I don't know. I've talked plenty about Miraidon. We probably could talk about some of the other stuff represented here. Like the second place team was pretty wild.
Yeah, let's pull it up. So we see Electabuzz, right? So that Pokemon that Alex that we popularized, except not on the team that we popularized it on. It is now on the Archaludon Kyogre Serena team with Choice Scarf Kyogre, just full damage, Cherry Water, got all 3 water moves, and that Helping Hand Serena, which is definitely something that can catch teams off guard. If you just don't have speed control, you don't have the anything that can outspeed that Kyogre, stop it from just clicking Helping Hand Water Spout with priority blocked. That's kind of a menace, right? That is something that might be something that people are disrespecting, and so I can totally see it. Along with the Electabuzz having feints, just as ways to really just use Kyogre to hit really hard, like it's always done.
And Thunder.
It's true. The Electabuzz did opt to run Thunder on this one. I love that. Feint to break those wide guards, or protects if you're trying to, reposition against the Kyogre. And then it doesn't stop there. Like I feel like Electabuzz is more normal than some of the other stuff you see on this team. You've got a Terra Ground Rillaboom with high horsepower that is looking to it doesn't have Woodhammer. Like they kept U-turn. They just kind of wanted it all. It brings me back to the Dynamax days, unfortunately. When we didn't run Woodhammer as often because you had Gmax it wasn't Drum Beating. Who remembers what it was called?
Drum Solo, Gmax Drum Solo.
Drum Solo. Okay, Drum Solo. Which was like 160 base power no matter what grass move you used as the base. So Rillaboom kind of always had access to like a big grass move if it wanted to. And so you would be willing to, or you could run that high horsepower and U-turn, or knock off and U-turn or something. This is a little bit different, where everyone feels like they need Woodhammer, but this person decided, I got a Serena, that's my big grass hitter. Rillaboom's here to have a bit of coverage, and I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, just like a very hyper offensive take on Kyogre, I think, which is but yeah, there's some cool text. Terra Ghost Archaludon as more fake out deterrent with Steel Beam for I guess to sack itself, which honestly is pretty valuable on a team that relies on momentum and keeping your weather and keeping your tailwind up at all times. Just being able to just kind of kamikaze out of there and get your Kyogre back in, get your Tornadus back in. Seems really cool on this type of team. It's definitely got a playstyle that's pretty different from some of the other Kyogre teams we've seen. We see like very different from like the Wochen Kyogre team that we saw Shiliang do so well with. But yeah, it's a scary team to face if you don't have responses to Water Spout.
And it's got that safety goggle stalwart, which is just super funny. I imagine you could like lead you could lead the Archaludon with Kyogre and like have a big spread move, and if they're still trying to like follow me redirect, like you could just hit that Pokemon with another attack with Archaludon around the redirection. It's super strange. The team has a lot of strange techs, but was able to make it all the way to the finals in this tournament, so you can't count it out. I think that's really cool. Other than that, we didn't talk too much about the winning team, but I don't think there's a lot to say about it. Fede took like, one of those like Ensign Rilla Ursh cores with bolts and then just took the Ensign off, put on a cornerstone, and at the end of the day, this is kind of what Cali Ice teams are known to do, just run a bit of a balance approach. You could probably say something similar about the team that got 6th. Shadow Rider, just also surrounded by those fire, water, grass Pokemon, nothing crazy. And yeah, then there's Robbie's team, which is probably interesting, and then Yuki's team is also a little different, but it's just a Torn Ogre team at the end of the day.
Yeah, Robbie's team is pretty cool. It's got the Koraidon and the Covert Cloak Venusaur on it, and then yeah, we also see the Bear mode with the Porygon 2 and the Ursaluna. So yeah, I think that Koraidon really has fallen off, especially with Pelipper winning NAIC. It's at a really hard time. So it's cool to see people having a little bit of a different take on it. This team also still looks very developer, but it is cool to see Venusaur get some love when that is a Pokemon that still has some really strong coverage in Sludge Bomb Grass Knot, but yeah, maybe a little outclassed at this point. But it's cool to see it. Cool to see it continue to be as annoying as always.
Right. It is a very annoying one, especially that covert cloak. Um, yeah, I guess before we move on from talking about teams or anything here, I just wanted to briefly mention the like top 16 usage stats because I do think that's pretty interesting. You mentioning Koraidon being at a all-time low kind of made me think about it. But yeah, there is one Koraidon, 3 Ice Rider, and then we have a couple of 4s. We have 4 Ogre, 4 Miraidon, 4 Shadow Rider. So a pretty good idea of like what are the top dog restricteds at this point going into Worlds. What are the ones you got to look for? Speaking of dogs, maybe one dog that's a little absent from people's minds here, Zamazenta didn't have a single appearance in the day 2 at this point. Day 2 being had a 6-2 or better record after the 8 rounds. And then, however you finished on day 2, whether it was 6-4 or winning the whole tournament, there was no Zamazentas and no Terapagos. That one I feel like is way too crazy and fraudulent. I feel like both are a little too crazy and fraudulent. Just because I see a result like this doesn't mean I'm going to just say, well, let's just forget my, Terapagos and Zamazenta prep for Worlds, like that, out of sight, out of mind. But it definitely tells you a little bit about like how well teams are prepared for them right now. They're definitely going to have to break the mold a little bit if they want to shine at Worlds.
Yeah, also notably, Kyogre all the way up to 4th in usage, even in day 1 Swiss, right? Even with everyone included, it was number 4 in usage. It actually had a pretty good conversion rate, which is I really miss being able to sort into the Pokemon and just see all the teams that have Kyogre on it. But yeah, it looks like all 3 Kyogre, was this 3 Kyogre? I think all the Kyogres made top cut, which is a really strong showing. So this Pokemon is back. It's back with a vengeance. The version that was really popular on ladder for a while was something like this, which was what Crystal used to get number 1 on ladder with, and I think also number 3 on ladder, something like that. Something crazy in the in-game ladder, maybe with some slight variations to it. But yeah, this Calm Mind Kyogre with Grimmsnarl team has been floating around a little bit after doing really well on ladder. But then we also saw that the Scarf Ogre team also do well. So this is all 4 Kyogres making top cut after making day 2 is something to sorry, there was one that missed it, I guess. Where'd the 5th one go? Where'd it go? There it is. Here we go. The a different Arcaludon Kyogre team. But yeah, 5 Kyogre, 4 of them making top cut. It had a really good showing this tournament. Acid Caloric Shadow Rider with a 41% day 2 usage after 30% usage in day 1. So really overachieving at the expense of Terapagos and Zamazenta, it looks like, mostly.
Stupid Shadow Rider. I hate that horse. I hate it. I hate it. I'm sorry, but if you are a Shadow Rider player going into Worlds, I'm wishing you the worst, even if you're my friend. You already know this. I've told you. That includes you, Audie, by the way, if you're playing Shadow Rider at Worlds.
It might be. You never know.
Wishing you the worst.
Wait, is this Crystal who cut? I didn't actually check. Oh, it is. Okay, so they cut with their own raid team, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this team is super strong. So as far as, even though they missed out on the top 8, losing in top cut, I think that is one of the teams to look out for.
Right.
It's one of the reasons that Kyogre is so popular right now.
Might as well talk about one last team before we go. The 10th place team, Worlds runner-up, or not Worlds runner-up, Worlds reigning champion. Mm-hmm. The reigning champion in 10th there, with the Clefairy version of Shadow Rider. Yeah, this team doesn't seem to be doing anything crazy different. It's got a lot of similarities to your team that you ran at LA, right, Adi? You had the Covert Cloak and the Calm Mind with the Clefairy, and Sing as well. But there's some differences here, too. There's a Mian Shao with Taunt. It doesn't even have Feint or anything. Taunt is a similar tool, I guess, for breaking Wide Guard. You just kind of do it a little delayed. And, yeah, other than that, it's got Grass Spam, which is like a bit of a different approach, maybe solid, maybe not, but, other than that, this is a team to watch out for because it's being used by a very strong player.
Yeah, and even just extrapolating beyond this, Hearthflame in general had a really good showing. There were a bunch of Hearthflame in day 2. This was not a Pokemon that was around, but it wasn't that around. We see Ismail over here with a different take on Hearthflame. Clefairy, Caloric Shadow. I think they did not have the Mienshao. They had the Rillaboom instead. And yeah, so there's a couple more. Where's the usage stats? I think we have it down here somewhere. Here we go. Yeah, so you can see there were 6 of them in day 2, which is and honestly a lot in day 1 as well. So this is another Pokemon that's kind of been skyrocketing in usage over the last couple weeks before Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if there's any other teams that really stand out to me, but I guess what do you guys think of the format of this tournament? This one had less players than I think we'd expect at Worlds, with about 280 players, but you see here about 39 players in day 2. It looks like into 16 players in top 16, which is a very convenient number. So I don't know. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for this tournament, right?
Yeah, I think when you get that perfect top 16, like, yeah, nobody's gonna complain. There's no complaints here. Unfortunately, at Worlds and maybe some of the smaller regionals we see next season, they might fall in that uncomfortable number. Even some of the larger regionals will also kind of fall in that uncomfortable number where we're going to end up with like 20 something players in the top cut, and some people will get buys, but it feels like, I'd much rather be playing not between top 16 and top 32 for that round of 32. I'd much rather be playing between 8 and 16 for a cut number. And so I feel like, as many people have mentioned, one more round of Swiss would be ideal. I do legitimately think if enough people keep talking about it, we could, maybe make that change happen. We've done stuff like it before, and it's pretty easy to do. It's also not such a big ask in terms of like timing of the tournament, like technically the round might require like judges to be a little more active because, it's technically another round of Swiss as opposed to a cut round, but at the same time you're still playing the same number of rounds in the tournament. It doesn't actually add time to the tournament. You're either, playing a round of top 32 or you're playing one more round of Swiss. Um, yeah, that's still the change I'm hoping to see in the future if we can make it happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'd love to see that change.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess while we have, I know you guys are, we've been the ones talking about Pokemon, but I want to hear your thoughts for Worlds. I know you guys both are going to be watching intently. What do you think? What do you think the call is for Worlds, Joe and Austin?
Just to piggyback on this last combo with Shohei, because I was also looking at the Hearth Flames, the 2 and cut, thinking Hearth Flame on their eyes, but Shohei is just a really big fan of not running Aquajet on Urshifu because he won Worlds with Taunt in the 4th slot, and then here he gets top 16 with Rock Tomb in the 4th slot instead of Aquajet, so he just has no use for that move, which I respect Shohei committing. Yeah. I think this is surprising to see Kyogre on such a rise, but it did have 2 slots in top 8 at NAIC, and I think people are kind of understanding how strong it is and being paired with so many powerful grass types. Like, I feel like this is the strongest grass has ever felt in any of the years that we've been playing VGC. Like, you just look, even the second place team has 2 grass types on their team, right? That's how good grass types are right now. So Kyogre kind of taking care of their major weakness being on their team. So I think going into Worlds, I'd probably be prepping for Kyogre and Miraidon more than the Calyrex brothers at this point, because those teams they could somewhat feel a little complete. You know what I mean? They kind of feel very restricted and very regimented. Like all the slots are all accounted for on Fetty's Calyrex Ice Rider team. So I'd be much more concerned about what the Kyogre and Miraidon players are cooking up for Worlds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Austin?
I think it's going to be one of the like 3 to 4 restricted we've seen to just be the strongest. I don't think anything's going to be super surprising. Like Koraidon, the Calorexes, and now Kyogre have just proven to be so much more powerful than like the other counterparts. It's hard for me to imagine something outside of that box doing particularly well. We've seen really good Terapagos players, we've seen really good Zamazenta players, but it's just like two people, and they definitely have the potential to like win worlds, but I don't know if that's what they're going to be sticking with for this tournament.
All right, Austin. Now give us a hot take.
A hot take. Koraidon is going to win somehow.
All right, thank you.
Let's go, Koraidon.
That's what we need to hear. This is Tub Takes. We gotta get the hot takes. All right. I guess Alex, is there anything else we want to talk about for the Victor Road Challenge?
No, I think that's it. My hot take is that I think we might see success from Pokemon, from teams featuring like Incin, Rillaboom, Raging Bolt, Urshifu. Those teams are, I think, the sleeper pick going into Worlds. Not enough people are trying stuff with those guys, and it could be dangerous. You know, when you don't know what they're cooking up, you never know what to expect.
Be well prepared for Incin, Rillaboom, Urshifu. That's the advice.
No, don't. That's my Worlds team. Please don't.
All right. So with that, let's move on to our next topic, which is so this past weekend, I was at the North American World Championship qualifier for Yu-Gi-Oh, and as you can see on screen, I actually won. That's right. Aditya from Texas did win the event. Me and my trusty Fiendsmith Snake Eye deck won out of 2,000 duelists to claim the title. So congratulations to me. No, this is a different Aditya.
I haven't seen you in that hat, Adi. I don't remember this hat from you.
But yeah, no. Like I said, this is the first time I've been to a major Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. I'd been to locals before, but the one big event that I was trying to go to was canceled because of COVID, and so it was really cool. A couple things to take away. First is that I didn't actually play the main events. I played the retro side event, so the 2010 format tournament, which had 460 players. It was the biggest retro tournament, Yu-Gi-Oh tournament ever. We're going to talk about retro formats. We're going to talk about the tournament structure because it's all really interesting. It's all very different than what I'm used to, and it's been a while since I've been taken out of my comfort zone like that, where I'm just so comfortable at Pokemon tournaments. Here I am at a convention that you'd think I'd be very, very at home at, but it is a very different experience. And so I wanted to talk about that, and then I also want to talk to Joe and Austin, because Austin, you were at the Lorcana. What is it called? What's the Lorcana circuit called?
Lorcana Challenge. It's a very boring name. It's just Challenge.
Okay, so tell us what you were doing this past weekend.
This weekend, I went up to Fort Worth to play in the Lorcana Challenge. Lorcana, for anyone out of the know, which I imagine is most people, is the official Disney trading card game. It came out in August of last year. It's not even a year old. They've started like an official like circuit. I don't think there's any like talk of like a worlds or like national championships things, but it was really cool. There were way more people than I thought there'd be. There were 2,000 plus people at this Yu-Gi-Oh! Nationals. There were close to 1,900 people at this Lorcana Challenge.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. It's taken off super well. It was a very interesting experience because, I mean, we're all competitive Pokemon players. We're not unfamiliar to a regional type event, a worlds type event, a national event. But there were like so many things that were just like, this is so much more different than what I'm used to. And it's weird to think that like people just kind of like on the other side of the auditorium that we're at are experiencing this kind of tournament as opposed to like what we're doing. But it was a lot of fun.
And that was also your first major Lorcana tournament, right?
First major Lorcana tournament, yeah.
And then also, Joe, we got you on because you have been. I've seen a couple tweets from the last month or so. You've been playing a lot of One Piece lately. You've been casting One Piece and you've been playing One Piece. So tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I started playing at the end of set 3, beginning of set 4, which was around last fall, pretty much. But I got really hardcore into the game in the winter with the start of set 5, and I've been going to my my local card shop every week, once or twice a week. We have a lot of really good talent. Fortunately, being in New Jersey, just like learning Pokemon and going to your locals in Tri-State, there's a lot of people there that are also really talented. So when I go to One Piece, we have 40 players showing up on a Thursday, and they're all players that qualify, playing in online regionals or travel to a bunch of One Piece regionals. So you can start to lessen that skill gap very quickly just from repetition. So I've been playing in my weeklies for a lot of months. Even went to a regional back in April. Went to the Niagara Falls regional, which had over 1,000 players. And at the beginning of July, I got to cast with fellow Pokemon commentator Jeremy Jallin on the TCG side. We casted a store regional championship online, which is capped at 64 players. Top 4 players got invites to the national championships later this year, and I've just been loving the One Piece. Honestly, when I'm not doing the podcast and not doing other Pokemon responsibilities, I've just really dived super deep into playing One Piece.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I personally really like having another competitive outlet. Where in Pokemon, I kind of take it really seriously, so it's nice to have another game where I can. It's kind of like my wind down game, right? It's always really easy to play a duel here or there, go to locals in a game that I don't have to take it seriously. And so yeah, I really like it. But I did want to talk about some of the differences, and I don't know what to put on screen for this, but I do want to talk about some of the differences in experiences between playing in a TCG tournament and playing in a VGC tournament. And I guess starting with the tournament structure, and I'm going to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament structure, both the one that I played in, and then I wanted to hear about the other tournament structures. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh structure is actually for the major tournament, for the main event. It is about the same structure as Pokemon. It's actually 8 rounds in day 1, and then 2 or 3 rounds of day 2, and they cut to a top 64 usually. They play this huge single elim bracket, but other than that, like it is very similar. The difference being, of course, that you have draws in trading card games like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. Whereas the side event that I played in was 460 players, and they originally said it would be 6 rounds day 1, 2 rounds day 2, and then top 8 cut. So a bunch of X1s were going to miss. They amended that to 9 rounds in day 1 with top 8 the next day, which meant that I think X1 missed, but all X1s made it, which is still like a crazy format to have. But yeah, it was a very different tournament structure from what I was used to, and it's something that I'm going to be seeing more of next year in the Pokemon structure. And yeah, I'm curious. So I guess we'll start with Austin again. How was the Lorcana tournament that you played in? What was the format of the tournament?
Lorcana's format is bananas. It's so weird. Like, so it's a brand new card game, and I think that they're like adjusting to like the game itself and like how it works, but also I think they're trying to do new things to make it more like quote unquote fair. So Lorcana official tournaments are a best of 2 format.
Let's go
And the
best of
way
2.
and so the way that it works is that you get points per win in a round. You get 3 points if you win a game, and you get 6 points if you win both games in the best of 2, and an additional kicker point. So, like the options for a round are is that you either get 0 points, 3 points, or 7 points.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and they only have top 64 advance on today too. So I'm a decent competitor, but this is like a totally new card game that I'm not nearly as like invested in as Pokemon, so I wasn't going to do as well, even if like kind of every star aligned for me. But I was 0-2, like I had lost 0-2 on 2 different rounds by round 4, and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy. I'm out of the tournament. Like I cannot
Hmm.
advance any further." Which like I was just there to have fun, so like it worked out for me, but I can't imagine like could you imagine being X2 at round 4 to Pokemon tournament and be like, "It's over. It's done."
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. You
Yeah.
do you have any idea what it took to move on to the top 64 then? I mean, top 64 from you said about 2,000 competitors does sound like a pretty slim cut.
It was I had it pulled up just in case I was asked this very question. Okay, so top 64, the person at 64 had a record of 6 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. Am I reading that right? Oh, so maybe I
Oh,
did have a
wait.
chance.
How
No, wait,
many like points did they have in this system then? Like
they had 45.
45. Okay. Um that I don't know what that actually means to me. I'm trying to, I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
We're all trying to do the math right now.
It feels like you
Um,
needed to like double win about 8 rounds.
Yeah, it's so the person at like that just squeaked in, they won 6. So 6 times 7 is 42. And then they got 3 points
And a draw.
for a draw. Yes. Yeah. That was
Okay,
the
so
worst record that you could have had.
okay, so they had 6 total wins,
Mhm.
and then they had 1 even, and then the rest of them were losses. Or
Yes.
yeah, I
So
don't
I
know if
was
there's
wrong.
another path to this number that involved like, some more ties, but anyways, go ahead.
Well,
Allegedly, if you want, I think that like people weren't super clear on this, but allegedly it was more valuable, I think, in terms of tiebreakers if you won the second game in the best of two.
Oh, that's
Um,
funny.
yep.
yeah, but it wasn't super clear. And also of there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players that lost 2 rounds and were able to get into day two out of the 1,900 players and the 64 players in day two.
Yeah, I actually have strong opinions about. I think we all have strong opinions about best of two, but man, best of two, super based. I love best of two. I think it's excellent. I think that it solves a lot of problems that TCGs have, which is that games go to time a lot, and I think that this means that your rounds take less time on average, which is really good, and it still gives you 2 games, and it disincentivizes a lot of the stalling that kind of sort of happens at events. And a lot of the like arguments that happen at events. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that best of two in theory is really cool. But it sounds like you had a frustrating time where you lose a couple games and all of a sudden you're out of the tournament, right? So, what did you think
Yeah.
of the best of two?
It so I heard like a couple of people talking about it before the tournament, and one complaint that I heard was that like they felt like the round wasn't over. Like they had a couple matches where they win one, then their opponent won the other one, and then they'd be like, "But wait, like I want to prove that I could win this still."
Mhm.
Which I imagine is like a super frustrating feeling. I only had one game in with us both getting like 1-1, and I didn't feel any kind of like dissatisfaction from it. It was kind of like, oh, we both played really well, and we both won our games, and it was on to the next one. There were like things I definitely liked. Card games take so much longer, and I wasn't mentally prepared for this. It was like 7 o'clock when I left after round 6 or 7. I can't really remember, but I was like, oh
Oh
my God,
no.
it's so late. And there's another 3 rounds after this. I
No
can't do this.
way.
Yeah. I
Oh
was like,
no.
I can't do it.
When did you start? When did you start?
We started at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So that I
Um,
also noticed that Yu-Gi-Oh starts relatively late too. Like 10 o'clock is a late start time compared to Pokemon. Um,
that's an insanely
and
late
Yeah.
start time.
and it goes on. Yeah, like I noticed the same thing, right? You have a round timer that's in Yu-Gi-Oh's case it's 45 minutes, and then games then, because of time extensions, because of rulings, and because of just general tournament stuff, right, the rounds end up at like an hour to an hour 20 minutes sometimes. Like it started at 10 o'clock or later than that, and it goes on really really late. Even my tournament, I dropped after round 6, and it was 7:30, something like that. So that is the one thing that I'm really really appreciative about VGC is, man, We get out of the venue at a very reasonable time. Everything is done so smoothly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice when the game itself has a built-in timer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, what kind of tournament structure did they do over in One Piece? I guess, like, is it different between locals and the big ones, or is it mostly the same? What are they doing over there?
So, One Piece is a Bandai card game, and the first thing to know about Bandai card games is that don't ask questions because you're either not going to get an answer or the answer is going to be more confusing than you could ever imagine. For a lot of the reasons that they do certain structures and certain decisions, just don't ask because you're not going to like the answer or you're not going to get an answer. It's just completely illogical. They also Bandai treats all of their card games like the same way, regardless of size and format. And so every Bandai card game is like, this is the rule in Digimon, this is the rule in One Piece, this is the rule in Dragon Ball, this is the rule in Union Arena. This is how all the tournaments are structured the same way. When not all games are deserve to be played and structured the same way. So One Piece is best of one, and you'd think it can be a little high rolly, right? If maybe you get a bad draw or something like that, you feel like you lost. However, it's 50 cards instead of 60 cards. So you can have 4 copies of them in your deck, and it's leader based, which is different than other games, right? Like maybe your Charizard deck is built around Charizard, but it's not literally a separate character from the rest of your deck. So there's a lot of fundamental differences between One Piece and other card games because of that leader aspect to it. But they're best of one. It used to be 35-minute rounds. Now it's 30 minutes. They just changed that this set, thankfully, because some people just take forever with their decisions. So now they have to play 5 minutes a little bit faster. And their tournaments are I don't even know how to. I don't know how the definition of you go until one person is undefeated is the Swiss format. I don't know how the definition of how to explain that, but basically, instead of going into the day like we do in Pokemon and say there's 2,000 people, therefore we'll have 9 rounds of Swiss and then 5 more rounds into a top 8 cut. Their format is today will take as long or as short as it possibly can until there is one person that is remaining undefeated.
What do you?
So,
We're just gonna go till it's over.
right. So it happens a lot where you just truly have no idea how many rounds are remaining in the day because somebody who gets paired down might lose, so that could expedite the amount of rounds, or people that the final round, like my local tournaments with 40 people usually are 5 rounds because you'll have one undefeated person left at the end. But if the math works out and a bad matchup happens in round 5, we might literally all have to play a 6th round of Swiss just because one guy happened to lose or win a game that he wasn't supposed to, and according to the math. So it's really frustrating. You're trying to figure out your tiebreakers, if you should drop or if you should do it, if you still have a chance of cutting. And then they don't play out top cut. So if it's 6 rounds, you go the guy that's 6-0 is first place, and then everyone who's 5-1 is 2 through 7, and then some guy bubbles in the 8th place. They only play out top cut at regionals or higher. So if you're at a store championship or a local tournament or anything else, they do not play out the Swiss, or they not play out the cut, which feels a little bit weird. So I think there's some pros and cons. One, the game would be way too long if it was best of 3. Like I said, it's 30-minute round timers, and you might feel shortchanged because you only had one game, but each round would be an hour and 40 minutes if we actually did play a best of 3. So it's just like a necessary evil that One Piece has to be a best of. One Piece has to be a best of 1, but then when they do play Top Cut, it does become a best of 3, and the games never finish 3 games in the time slot that's allotted because they know that the game is too long. I'm telling you, this is just a Bandai thing. Like, look, I see Alex's reaction. Like, I don't even want to explain it anymore because I feel like I'm just going to let everybody down.
That's so unsatisfying.
Yeah.
To jump in though, Joe, we did have one question, and then I actually have a question off of somebody else's comment. One just said, "What was the most amount of rounds you played in that style of format?" I can't remember if you mentioned this already, but have you played in any like regional plus like?
Yeah, I played in a regional in Niagara Falls back in April, and that was 10 rounds of Swiss on day one. So that
with
one,
how many?
so again,
people?
that could have been 9. Just letting you know, it could have
Right.
been
But how
9
many
rounds of
people
Swiss.
was it? How many people? Was
It was like I think it was 10,050 or something like that. I don't
wait,
think it reached
wait,
1100.
1,050 or 10,050?
Sorry, I'm dumb. 1,050. That's what I mean. Like,
Okay, I'll get. Okay, I'll get.
I'm
I was
the
like,
I was
oh
like,
my
wait.
god!
We fill in 10K events? Hold
Did,
up.
no,
did
my bad,
everyone
my
go to this tournament?
1,050, and that was 10 rounds because there were multiple people at 9-0 after 9 rounds. Which, like, well, you have a top 64 cut that's playing on day 2. Why don't you just continue on day 2? It's like, nope, round 10, everybody go find your pairings, and then it cuts to top 64 the next day.
Oh, that's awful because it's like you're waiting on one pair down. You don't know what the result of that pair down is, so you just have to stick
Yep.
around at the venue, wait until they. That I would hate that after round 9. How so? But it is best of 1, right? So I imagine it actually finished at a reasonable hour. I would hope.
Yeah, I think it wasn't actually that bad. It started at 10, and through the 10 rounds, I want to say we were out by 7-ish, because the early rounds, it's like it's 30 minutes around, but then it's once you reach time, it's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes or 3 turns after, right? Like you always have that rule in card games. Like even in Pokemon, we have that. Um, and so 30 minutes is really probably like 40 minutes because the judge calls them, blah, blah, blah. And then 40 minutes is actually 50 minutes because of their pairing system. Somebody wrote a loss when they got a win, all this stuff. So those early rounds take like an hour for 30-minute rounds. But the later the day went on, it got much quicker because there's less people playing, less people are prone to misinputting their information because they've experienced, how to properly do in the app and stuff like that. Yeah, I think we started at 10, and I think we left at 7, but we didn't have like any major issues like you did with Orkana or Yu-Gi-Oh.
That's good to hear. That's you know what? That's one of the big benefits of best of 1. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So I guess best of 1, yes or no for VGC? You think we should have a best of 1 regional?
Best of 1 world.
Like the thing is that when you play open team sheet, like it does eliminate a lot of it, and so like I feel like I could be okay with it. Like at locals for sure. The best of 1s are not that bad because of open team sheet. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I still definitely prefer best of 3.
It depends kind of on the level of
Stream,
competition.
so.
Yeah. Oh, it's over. All right, let's wait another 40 minutes for the next round.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
It depends
so
on the
true.
level of competition. For just like a local, I don't mind doing best of 1 at all. But like at a full-on regional, I don't want to be like, oh, well, I really need to get it this one time.
Yeah.
Regional should be best of 1 single elim, and nobody gets to sit on a chair. All right. So the other comment in the chat, though, that I wanted to see if you knew anything about, Joe, was somebody said One Piece prizing is absurdly valuable for regional plus events. I was curious, what does that mean? Do you know?
They, as you know, people can play One Piece for many different reasons. Like you can either like the show, or you like card games, or you like Bandai card games, and you're switching over from Digimon. There's a lot of reasons, but a lot of it is the value of the brand of One Piece. And so their prizing, oftentimes they have they have either online regionals, offline regionals, and then national championships and stuff. Their prizing, they make essentially alternate cards of popular meta cards that, like, in top 64,
Oh, Jesus.
everybody will get a Charlotte Katakuri. He's a character, he's a leader, but there's also an 8-cost character of him, and so top 64, everybody gets it, and it's a exclusive art to just that regional, and it has the big sign that says regional on it, and someone will say winner, and all the different things, or judge, or all the different ways. So like that's where the money is in, is like the amount of cards that you get that are like exclusive to top cutting events and prizing, and then the serial cards, which are cards given out to winners or top 8 of events, and they're numbered. So the first one was Shanks, who's a very, very famous character in One Piece. For those who don't know, and because he's so popular, and there were only 1,000 Shanks serial cards made or whatever, you could sell it for like, like a regional top 8 cereal you could sell for like $6,000 or something. And then they made a cereal Luffy cards, which obviously Luffy is the Pikachu of One Piece, right? So that one you could sell for $10,000 or something. So I think
Holy.
somebody who got first place.
Wait, how much did you sell for?
To enter, I think it's $30 to enter like a regional or something. But the guy that won US Nats, I think he sold his like one of one national championship card for like $30,000 or something. So yeah, you can if you can survive that long and actually perform that well, you can make a lot of money in One Piece.
And it's cumulative, so you get all the cards below. Oh my god. Okay.
Does One Piece have cash prizing?
I don't think so. I think it's pack based, and then all the cards that you get. So you probably get 1 million packs for first place on top of.
It sounds like It sounds like cash, Adi. It's just a funny looking.
It's just all in one piece of paper.
Yeah, you get
it. If you get a top 8 card at a regional, you could probably sell it for like $400.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we see it in Pokemon at Worlds too, right? Where all the stuff that you get for doing well at Worlds is so valuable. It's part of why people are excited to go, right? The trip pays for itself essentially just for participating. And then on top of that, I think Yu-Gi-Oh has something. It's very similar where there's no cash prizing as well, and so it's all just the boxes that you get and the memorabilia that you get is basically funding your travel if you're one of these pro players. Except they don't do the cool promo cards where it says champion and it says top 64 on it, which I think is awesome. I think that is like a super easy way for games to reward players to do well. It's like a real prize. I would love to see something like stamped cards in the same way that we see regional promo cards at VGC events for making day 2 or making top cut as like a nice little added thing that you get for doing well, especially for making day 2. I think would be a nice little like, oh, here's a promo card for making day 2. Maybe it's valuable, maybe it's not, but yeah, I think that's a cool way to add to the prizing that competitors get.
We've been talking about this, but it would be so cool if they could finally enable like that regional winner ribbon thing that they've always had in the game for the Pokemon, the mark or whatever. Because like,
that'd be
can you imagine like if I won like Portland and like my Chien Pao that I use at a later tournament says like Chien Pao the regional champion, or like something like that, or like you could have like Calyrex Ice, the national champion on Patrick's team, or like if they give that mon away at an event later, that would also just be a really cool aspect of it. Besides, the fact that it's just like a mon with good stats and maybe an event ribbon or something. Like the fact that it like mentions that it won a tournament, because I also feel like something like that could start to like clue in other people to like competitive Pokemon. People who are just like, I'm just a collector. I want to get like Pokemon for like I do all the giveaways, just to get like good Pokemon with stats or shinies or something. And then it says like the regional champion, and then maybe you decide to check it out yourself. I don't know. I just feel like it would be such a cool feature for them to enable, because it seems like it's already like halfway baked into the game. They just don't actually use it.
Yeah. Can you name the one Pokemon that you can obtain with the World Champion ribbon?
Is it one of Wolf's?
It is not one of Wolf's.
It is not, okay.
I feel like it's probably from one of Ray's wins.
Is it Pachirisu?
No, it's not. Not Pachirisu.
Oh man. Is it from one of Ray's wins?
It is not from Ray.
I was gonna say like Evu's Gastrodon or something.
Nope. It's before that.
It looks like Nerded now is Nerded right in the chat?
Yes. It is Ryota's Crocodile.
Really?
It was the only time they gave out. So they gave out these event Pokemon for international champions and for world champions, but they never have the ribbon except for Ryota's Crocodile is the only Pokemon that had the ribbon on it for some reason. So
why did that was just the only time they remembered to flip the switch to click the button that turns
And then
out,
they
like,
forgot immediately after too.
for every other one after that. Like,
yeah, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it next year. They have the national champion ribbon, I believe, but I don't think it's on any Pokemon ever, which they could definitely do as well. I think that
I'm saying it'd be so cool.
it'd be really
It'd be
cool.
a good incentive for people to like. I want to play so I can get my favorite Pokemon to have this ribbon. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That would be mad cool.
yeah. Justin decided to run Ditto in the last lot of his Nats team, partially because if he won Nats, it would mean that he gets to give everyone a Ditto with perfect IVs.
People would have been thanking him the world over. Like,
but yeah, so I guess a couple other topics about the tournaments. I noticed I follow one Yu-Gi-Oh player who flew out from Germany to play in this Lorcana tournament and top cut. And I thought it was really funny because he said he had 5 wins and a draw after 6 rounds, and then the last 3 rounds he just intentionally drawed. Right? It seems like you do that, and then you guarantee yourself top cut. And so I assume that IDs or intentional draws are legal in Lorcana. And then I saw another person have the exact same thing happen where they went 501 and then intentionally drew the next 3 into top cut. So what do you guys think about intentional draws in competitive games?
well, okay, so
The system can be exploited. It will be exploited. Like, I don't really like if the loophole is there for people to take advantage of, it's gonna happen regardless. And there's just not really a lot that can be done about it. You have to just kind of like foolproof the system as best you can.
I kind of like that VG doesn't have draws. Like, I feel like it's something that I don't want to think about. And like, I've never really, even in all my years playing, thought about like they definitely have rules about like pressuring your opponent to tie or draw in the VG or in the TCG side of Pokemon. But like, people probably skirt that line. People are like, oh, it's in your best interest, like, or like, they say it like enough subtle ways that don't use the key words that would get you actually DQ'd or penalized or something. And you're still gonna have to deal with that peer pressure. And that sounds so annoying and toxic. And I'm glad that video game just doesn't have anything like that. You just have to play the game, and unless you're playing an exact mirror or whatever, like, we even have like tiebreakers built into like literally everything. Like, it's just like the game won't let you do this, and so it's just like, just play your game or decide that you want to lose. Like, I think scooping is fine. I think scooping, like, you deciding like you can have the win, like, that again kind of falls in that category of like, it's unavoidable. Like, you cannot stop someone from intentionally losing. Like, do you want me to click my buttons and attack my own Pokemon? Do you want me to attack their Pokemon in such a bad way that I lose the game? Like, no, if I want to lose, I'm going to lose. Like, you cannot stop that. So of course, but when it comes to like ties, like, we have something like, there's just no way for us to do it really consistently. And so I like that we just always have like a clear cut result and don't have to deal with any of that like obnoxious pressure or people telling you what's the correct way to play. Like, you're supposed to tie here because we'll be, as long as you just get one more win. Like, no, just shut up. Let's play the game.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation that we don't get to deal with in VGC because you can't really tie. But I mean, there are situations in the Pokemon trading card game where I think it used to be that 6-2-1 would be the record that makes it, and some people are really happy to make day 2, and some people are playing to win the tournament. They don't really want that draw on their record, but that would be a record that people would draw at. But it gets to this really awkward situation where like. Where some people want to draw in the situation, some people don't. You do have to try to like, it's like, it gets to these really awkward games where both players are incentivized to draw, but if they are forced to play it, then they play it in a very particular way that might as well be an ID, but it is against the rules. In games like Yu-Gi-Oh, we see that happen, and so that is one thing that that IDs allow you to circumvent altogether. But I really hate structures like this that you can see on screen where it's just like, oh yeah, 6 rounds into the tournament and I'm locked into cut, so I'm just gonna ID the rest. That is one thing that I really don't like about it. I think you should have been playing at least most of your rounds in the tournament. Play all but one of the rounds at least. I get scooping the last round because you're in cut, but this is a little excessive.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the current system, but then again, like if you don't have ties, we have what we have in Japan, where if you watch the Japanese streams of those like 3,000 player events that are all best of one, and there's no tie, and if the game's not decided when the time is up, both players lose. So like it's just like it's a super harsh system that they have in place to stop people from timer stalling or whatever, and they want to make sure people are actually finishing their games. But like I don't know if like everybody loses is a is a better solution, because like you're not like rewarding people, you're just like out of fear forcing them to play faster, I guess. But yeah, we're very fortunate in VGC not to have it, but I do think one of the benefits of the new top X qualify for world system for TCG is that the exact situation Adi talked about, those round 9 conversations of should I scoop or should I play, I think those become much less valuable to scoop just to get into day 2, where everybody would just ID that last round and then get 256th, and that's all they cared about, because they slowly but surely would get their world's invite. Now you can't do that because the bar is going to be ever increasing. And so like a lot of the top players would always say you shouldn't scoop round 9 if that because by doing that you guarantee yourself a spot in day 2, but you almost guarantee there's no chance you can top cut the event because you have to go like 5-0-1 in those 6 rounds on day 2. Where if you win round 9, you give yourself that extra potential wiggle room on day 2. So I hope this makes people more incentivized to actually play out the last round instead of IDing just to get into day 2.
That is my like somewhat toxic take, is that like I mean, whether it's toxic or not is kind of up to you, whoever's hearing the take, but like I want more people to be playing tournaments to win. Like I think that's just like a fun thing about the game that we'll see change with the top 75. I don't love the top X system, I get that, but people are going to go from just saying, oh, I just want to do well enough to get points, I want to just do well enough to make day 2 and then flounder out from there. And it's like it is fun to try to win tournament by tournament. And like I think people need to just like shrink their scope a little, to think like not so much about like I need to like do this and this and this to get a world's invite. Like just think about just doing your best at the tournament. And I really think that that's like going to be a major change going into this next season once we actually get to regionals and stuff. What is actually the first one? Is that Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Baltimore goes when we're actually using this new system. It's so early in the year that I feel like the vibe is going to change drastically across the year. Like you're not going to get those like desperate people at the first one, the people who are like, dude, but I'm so close to my world's invite, like are you even going, are you even gonna attend? It's like, oh my god, please stop. There's too many people that I have heard over these. Of course, everyone should know to just call out those people if you hear them. Like, especially don't expect the person that's being whined to do something about it, because they are also probably being guilted. They're going to feel something. Like, if you hear that next to you, just call it out, of course. Like, you got to do that person a favor and be like, hey, no, that's not going to fly. Because, like, that stuff pisses me off. I've seen it too many times over the years. I had it done to me, too.
Yeah. That is something that we're gonna have to look out for as the season progresses, I guess. It's funny because like,
right,
especially now, everyone's got friends who are competing for that top 75. So giving those points to someone else might mean knocking one of your friends out of that contention. I don't know if I'm giving anyone points.
Yeah, that's why going into next season, I'm planning on just getting rid of all my friends. That way, I have like nothing to worry about, nothing to lose. Like
you're gone, Adi.
So the another question. What was it?
I was just saying, who are you?
Another question I had about the card game experience was or another, I guess, anecdote I have is another one of our friends from Austin, attended with me, frequent viewer of the show. You can find him arguing in the comment section. I'm not going to name names, but but he came with us to the event, and he I was bought some cards, checked everything out, said hi to some content creators. I was like, you should play a side event. It's like really nervous because card games are intimidating. Card games are there's a lot of like minutia that you have to get right. A lot of like a lot of like mechanical things that you have to know how to do, that you have to be able to do. A lot of mechanics in general that you have to know reasonably well. And so even though it was a side event, I was trying to peer pressure him into playing one. No, like just it's a little uncomfortable to take that leap. And so I can tell you for myself, I haven't really played at one of these majors before. So I went on the Friday before the event and forced myself to play a couple of the side events just to get my own comfort levels up for the main event, right? And so I'm curious, how was the adjustment going into trading card games for you guys? Did you feel uncomfortable with cards, handling cards in general? Did you feel uncomfortable in the new setting, new tournament, new people, or tell me about that experience getting into it?
I got lucky that everyone that I played and talked to at Lorcana was super cool and really nice. Something that like I wasn't really mentally prepared for is whenever I'm playing at a tournament, I'm not really a talkative player. I just kind of like sit there quietly and like focus on the game. I have to like in a card game, you have to narrate everything that you're doing, and you have to like actively pay it. I mean, like not that I'm asleep when the animations start, but like you have to like really watch everything that your opponent does just in case they get something wrong. And that was just like such a very it's hard for me to like describe how like different that feels from just like inputting your moves and then being like, okay, they're doing this, so that means that that's gonna happen, whatever. Of me being like, okay, draw, do this, do this, do that, do that. Your turn, you're doing this. Okay, great. Also, you can't take notes in Lorcana, which is interesting.
And just to add to that, that's something that I noticed while I was playing at this event too. We mentioned that the rounds are going slowly, but also it does feel like it's more social than Pokemon. In Pokemon, we talk, we walk around and we talk in between rounds. But when we're playing, we're head down, headphones in. I'm totally focused. I'm looking forward. And so it's not like I'm actually talking to someone the entire time, and so I don't get as like socially burnt out at Pokemon events. And so even though at the Yu-Gi-Oh event I didn't really know anyone, having to literally just spend 45 minutes talking to my opponent, and then going in between rounds and like doing normal social stuff, was actually just, I realized I was a lot more tired than I was normally at a Pokemon tournament because of that, I think.
Does Lorcana or One Piece feature counter spells, kind of like Magic the Gathering, like things you can do on your opponent's turn?
Currently in Lorcana, during your opponent's turn, there's nothing you can do unless they do a trigger effect that forces you to discard a card from your hand.
Okay.
Which there are a lot of.
There are a lot of.
One Piece, yes, there are things you can do on your opponent's turn. There are characters in play that they have abilities that only activate, it'll say on opponent's turn. There are leaders that can do things like one of my favorite leaders I'm using now is you can tap a Don, which is your resource, it's your mana source, to tap one of your opponent's cards on their turn. And then when your opponents attack your leader or your characters, there are counter event cards that cost mana, cost Don, and they can boost your power to save your, have other secondary effects and stuff. So, funnily enough, the Magic counterspell comparison, from what I've seen from the people I've talked to the most, it seems like Magic players have had, at least from my anecdotal evidence, like the best transition over to Yu-Gi-Oh because of that to One Piece because of those same counterspell interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe, over to you. What was your experience at the Lorcana regional that you went to? And I guess what would you tell someone going to their first trading card game major tournament?
I had I was fortunate because I grew up in the Pokemon era back in 2014-15 where we were playing playing, TCG on Saturdays for $20 and then VG on free for on Sundays at regionals, right? So I had
True.
decks back in 2014, and so like I had some card game experience, but obviously playing Pokemon, just being around the game that so long, and just trying to play different decks over the years. So I wasn't completely blind going into One Piece. But it is very different from Pokemon. I think it's a little more like, I don't know if difficult is the word. There's a lot more steps, I should say, than Pokemon, that you have to think about, and it was it was pretty nerve wracking at first because there's so many decisions. Like every time, like how am I supposed to know to keep all this information in my head for this turn and next turn and 2 turns from now if he plays this? Like there's a lot, going on. But I think I equated it a lot to when I started learning VGC and the challenge of essentially starting from scratch, right? And so, I'm a Sejun truther. I'm a Patchy baby. So I watched that, and then after Worlds, I go on to Showdown. I start playing in Battle Stadium. I start going to my locals, and I'm building trash Mega Pincer teams, and I'm trying to make it work, and trying to make Mat Blocker Ninja Protein, work and all these things. And at the beginning of my career, and then slowly but surely you learn why those strategies aren't as effective and why the meta strategies are as effective. So over this last year, I felt that same drive and like appreciation of learning One Piece and getting good at the game, quote unquote, getting better at the game, I should say. I like it feels very similar. The improvements feel similar to how I felt when I was first learning VGC and improving at that competitive game.
That makes a lot of sense. And my opinion is that that learning process is always the most fun for me. Like the first year of playing VGC was probably my most fun playing VGC, even though it was by far when I was at my worst, right? And same with Yu-Gi-Oh. Slowly, I spent the last month grinding Yu-Gi-Oh instead of grinding for Worlds, which is maybe a mistake, but I've just had so much fun going through the process of like actually getting ready for a big tournament, competing in a big tournament, and feeling myself rapidly get better at this game is it's always really fun to do. So I totally feel that.
Yeah, it's really rewarding too. Like just because it really took me forever because I was playing with my brother and all his friends they've been playing Magic since they're like 13 years old, right? So they're all very experienced card game veterans, and I'm just getting smacked by them every game trying to learn how to play card games properly and knowing about tempo and pacing and all the stuff, and going from like just never getting a win at every local I went to, and then all right, now I go 1-4, all right, I'm getting better. Oh, now I'm 2-3, I'm almost over the hump, and then like say it went around like by April when I started preparing for the regional. I like the first time I went 3-2, like the first time I went positive at a local, like and I popped off, right? And now like as a player that I can consistently go positive at locals, or maybe even sometimes go 4-1 on the day, or like almost cut a couple of locals, like that improvement from like, well, remember where I was before. I was going 1-4, and now I have that ability to go 4-1 on any given week, and it like you do appreciate the amount of progress that you put into the game.
Mm-hmm. And so actually that is something that maybe applies to Pokemon as well now, more so than ever, because I think in the past with the very large Worlds format, a lot of people always looked at tournaments as, did I get points or did I not get points? Even at regionals, right? It's like, did I get that top 128 get championship points or not? That's like the metric for success or failure. But now Worlds is being more exclusive, making it so you kind of you have a good idea of whether you're gonna be competing for a Worlds invite or not, usually at the beginning of the year. And so now all of a sudden, I think it means that players can focus on their own performance more, focus on doing their best, and not saying, oh, I got championship points at this event. Oh, I didn't get championship points at this event. I went 3-2, I bubbled this local. I went 3-2 and I cut this local. Like, no, but you're playing to do your best. You're playing to get better. And so I think that now we have a format, a circuit structure that really incentivizes you to go for to do your best at events rather than just trying to play it safe, getting points, all that. Yeah, getting top cut at locals as the be all end all. Now there's more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I guess the last question I had about the tournaments and your tournament experiences at these big majors that weren't Pokemon was that there's always cool stuff going on. at these majors, right? Even Pokemon has all these different events, all these different like they have the old retro games and all side events and all that stuff. And I think each individual game tries to have their own unique stuff at these big conventions. Tell me some of the coolest stuff that you saw. We'll start with Austin at the Lorcana tournament, and maybe some of the cool side events or cool experiences that we could look at implementing in Pokemon tournaments.
Well, the first cool experience I have is just so very specific to only me. Is that my round one? I like said hi to my opponent. I was like, "Hey, my name's Austin," and the guy sitting next to me, he was like, "Oh, my name's Austin," and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then I was talking to the guy I was playing for a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I was like, "I'm from Austin." And then the guy next to me was like, "I'm also from Austin." And then he took out his deck, and I saw that we were playing the same deck.
No.
And we were both like, what's happening right now? There's 1,900 people, and we ended up sitting next to each other. And then he was like, do you have a partner named Crystal? And I was like, no, but I'm going to start asking out every girl I meet named Crystal just to see if that improves the odds. So I guess Pokemon could have more people named Crystal competing at them to improve my experience.
So true.
But an actual thing that happened, I didn't get to play in one of these. People were doing like draft tournaments, like pack tournaments. I don't really know how it works, but like you open 6 packs and you try to make the best deck that you can out of all the cards that you have, and you ignore the normal deck building rules for Lorcana because they're quite limiting for that kind of thing. And you just try to like do and it seemed really cool. And I wish that we could do something like that with VGC somehow, like somehow randomize competitive Pokemon, like almost like a Ranbats thing, but then made actual like somewhat functioning teams. I don't have an answer for that because it seems very difficult to pull off, but it'd be neat.
Oh man. You did not watch the Tub Takes episode where we complained about their attempt at that at Nationals.
So they tried?
They tried. You had to open booster packs, and you had to use the Pokemon that you found in the booster packs. Except if the Pokemon was not in the game, you could use any Pokemon that was in the game that shared a typing with it. So
okay,
yeah. So the best thing that you could do was
I got a water type that's not in the game. I get an Urshifu.
That's literally what happened, and we were talking about that on Top Takes like after NAIC. And a couple people who played the event were complaining about it. So they tried to do something similar for VGC, but they didn't. I think through the logistics fully. But yeah, I think that I think I called it the Battle Factory format. I think that would be super cool. I've seen it done well with random teams. I think there is a random team format as well where they give you a random rental code, right? So that one's a little different, but. I do like the drafting process, and I think that the Battle Factory format would be something we could see at side events. That would be really cool.
This is just like an idea. If someone somehow made like a bunch of different rental codes and then like wrote the rental codes down on a piece of paper and just like handed to you, you don't have any information. You just get like 6 sheets of paper and you just choose a rental code off of that, and then you find out what it is.
I thought that was what it was, wasn't it?
Let's do like Battle Factory style or whatever, which one of those in-game facilities is. But like you get like everyone gets like 6 Pokemon to choose from, or like I guess it would maybe be like 6 plus some, so you can have some choice. But you like 12 Pokemon to choose from. You build your 6, and then if you beat somebody, you can steal like any Pokemon from their team. Like it would just be so funny. Something like that.
Team
where,
Rocket
like,
tournament.
But
yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool if you could do that and it was like just like 8-man pods, right? So you could only steal 2 Pokemon ever, right? I think that'd be pretty cool, and you play single Elam.
Something like that could be fun. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like what the last topic you had here that we wanted to get into is just talking about like retro tournaments basically, like or like other things that we could be doing as side events, right? And I do think it would be fun if like they just kind of like announced beforehand, like even if it's just like I'm not going to the tournament and I missed like the fun one that's running the 2017 VGC format, like they're running that at Baltimore and I'm not going, like I would still be like, oh, that's awesome that they're running a 2017 side event at Baltimore for anybody that, doesn't move on to the second day. That'd be mad cool. And like they should just like kind of like constantly be doing that, rotating it, but also like committing to one thing. Because like you can't like, I feel like a lot of other games when they know like if they have too many, like I'm thinking about like in like Apex, like if you have too many playlists, too many options, it just divides the community, and everybody wants to play their specific one, and then you're not going to have everybody playing the same thing. You're not going to have enough people. But if you just say like, every tournament, just pick like an old like 3DS, DS format, who cares? Just pick one of them. Just say we're going to host a major side event for this on the second day, and if you didn't make it deep in the tournament, feel free to play. That would just be so cool. I feel like that would just be mad cool. Something like that, because like I think a lot of these other like build a team battle factory ones, like emulating the open a pack build a deck type style ones, they definitely can work, but it takes a lot more effort, I feel like, and like you have to really cook the system to figure out what is the optimal system, because like as you mentioned, the Nats one was a big swing and a miss, like, oh, that water Pokemon's not in the game, I get to use Urshifu, like that's we can't do that. But there's got to be some either well orchestrated way that you can do draft battles or retro formats. I'd be down for either of them if I don't know. I've talked about this a bit. One last thing I'll say is like it probably wouldn't do a ton for me personally as somebody who is getting like older and appreciating different things out of traveling for VGC. Like me a couple of years ago, like I've played VGC for 10 years. If if you did this 8 years ago, I'd be playing in every single one of these side tournaments. I'd be like, this is awesome. Me now, it means that I've traveled to London. If I'm knocked out of the tournament, I'm going to go explore the town. I'm not going to like, nothing you can do is going to disincentivize me from actually using this vacation as a vacation when it's not a tournament. So like, that's like a very personal experience thing. But I think in general, people would be very happy to have like a list of viable like side events that are more interesting than what we currently have going.
Yeah, and I mean, so one of the things that still I still think of is that there's a content creator I worked with who is just a casual Pokemon creator, Umbreon Libris, and he came to Vancouver Regionals one year in 2022, and as a spectator. And he said that like, yeah, I wouldn't go back to another event as a spectator just because like there isn't anything to do. The stream is like at regionals is not all that exciting. It's just a bunch of chairs sitting out, and like during day one, not a ton of people are actually watching at the venue. In day two, I think it's a little more exciting, but yeah, it's like I kind of get it. I think going as a spectator to a regional is not a great time if you're not going to go and play in some side events, and so the side events should be exciting. It should be accessible to players, and so yeah, I think having old formats like we talked about that bring older players back into the game and say, oh yeah, I played VGC back in 2015. I'll take a crack at it. Or also just fun stuff like booster draft where you don't necessarily have to have a team ready, but they give you the mons that you need so that anyone can play on a level playing field. I think those are really good things to improve the spectator experience at events. Yeah, and then like you said, like I probably wouldn't play in a ton of them, but that's kind of what I think the target is for this.
Mm-hmm,
and then, yes, Joe, I didn't get to ask you this, but I know you went to the One Piece major. Was there anything cool there that they did? Any like cool experiences? Any cool side events that you wish that that you want to talk about first, and then also that you kind of wish we could apply to VGC or to Pokemon in general?
Yeah, for sure. So they did a lot of the the same set of stuff that we have for our TCG side events, like win a box tournaments where you pay X amount of dollars and the winner of the event wins a box, right? Different like sealed product events and like custom game mode style of events. There's like this called Buddy Battle thing where like you have 2 leaders on each side, you're working together, right? So it's different side events like that. They were good, but the one that really popped off was they talked about the top 64 or the prizing variant cards. So there was a card in set 5. The character's name is Eustace Captain Kidd. So his name is Kidd, they call him. And that was the top 64 card that weekend, was an alternate Kidd. That was a really popular and very meta card. So they had win a kid side events the entire weekend. Like instead of a full box or instead of a full, all these other things. Like so, even though only top 64 got that card, they clearly had like 120 of those kids on them or something. I don't know how many, because I think it was after round. They started taking signups for those win a kid events after round 3 on day 1, and they were firing them off like every hour, 64 player pods, all the way into day 2, like during day 2's, top cut events and stuff. Like I think they ran 8 more on day 2. So they started Sims round 3. I think it started round 4 of 64 player pods on day 1, and then they ran like 7 or 8 more on day 2 as well. So that is what kept people who went 0-2 drop or like were super upset that they weren't playing well. Like it kept them invested and it kept them in the room and in the building, like just playing in these 64 player pods at the chance, because you were trying to get that win a kid anyway by playing the regional, right? So now you have another chance of, if you win this side event, you can still obtain your goal. So I think if we could find something like that for Pokemon, that would help us to keep people incentivized on day 2 or even after they drop on day 1. But I feel like the issue we're always going to run into is, as long as there's they're not PCs and MSSs anymore. As long as there's a cup or a challenge on day 2 for VG, it's going to be very hard to incentivize people to play a 2015 side event if there is a chance to earn championship points instead at the same time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that hopefully reducing the BFL to 4 will help with that. I think even towards the end of this season, fewer and fewer people were playing in those post-regional midseason showdowns because they just had gotten their best finish limit at that point, and so there will always be a few people, or there will always be a decent number of people playing in those events. But yeah, I would love to see other like sort of high-profile events. What Yu-Gi-Oh does, which is kind of similar, is they give out giant cards. And I've talked about this a couple times before, but they have these big side events on the Friday and the Sunday of the event, in the same time that we would normally have a PC or a midseason showdown or a league cup and a league challenge. And the winner gets this giant card, and the second and third place usually get the smaller version to the same card or different cards. And they sell for a lot. They're really cool. I would love to have one and win one just to put on display. I wouldn't sell mine if I had one, because it is a really cool piece of memorabilia that can be like a poster, basically, right, or something to frame. And so I think these are really cool. The only downside is if you win one, it is maybe a little bit of a hassle to bring back with you if you are flying somewhere.
Right.
That is why most people sell them almost immediately, rather than try to bring it on a flight. But yeah, something like that, something like cool playmats, things that incentivize people who think that it is a like positive expected value thing where they just expect to make money, but also people that want the cool memorabilia and want to compete for that. I think that finding ways to create side events that live at that happy intersection, as like these major side events that you could run, would be really cool. I think that, it sounds like One Piece is doing it. Yu-Gi-Oh does it. I know Magic the Gathering does it as well. I think this is something that I'm surprised Pokemon hasn't really taken a cue from, and is instead hosting league challenges and league cups that, like, I don't know. I personally just don't think they're worth it as much. Thoughts? Any other types of side events that we want to see?
Yeah, I think we could probably implement that one for one. Like a really big Nintendo Switch would be cool.
give me a totem version of my Pokemon. How about that? Give me just a really big version of my Pokemon.
There's all sorts of merch on the Pokemon Center website that'd be cool to have, but like there's a Pokemon picnic basket. They've got to have like 20 of those just lying around that they could give away. I'd take one of them. I'm not going to pay for it, but I'll like play a side event to win one.
There are a lot of things like that, absolutely.
What if you have like win a giant Spiel or win a giant Piplup, win a giant Arcanine?
Any of those
tournament?
giant
You get a lot
Pokemon
of people to
plushes,
pay
yeah.
$5 for that.
Right? Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I really wish we'd see. like I don't need booster packs as prizing for my side events. I want cool stuff, you know. Um, but and then the last thing that we kind of touched on is that the tournament that I played in that I mentioned was not actually the main event. It was a retro format. It was 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh. It was called Edison format. I had a couple people ask me about it. I'm not going to post a video about it because I didn't actually do that well. But I wanted to tell people that it exists because I think it's really cool. It's Synchro era Yu-Gi-Oh. But this has grown to be not quite more popular than the main thing, but there's 460 people at a side event that basically like doesn't really have prizing. Is pretty insane. I know people who qualified for the main event and then dropped after they got their stuff for entering and played the side event instead. Like that's how popular this was. Helps that Yu-Gi-Oh the format right now is not very good, so people really weren't interested in playing it. But yeah, it's really cool to see Yu-Gi-Oh really embrace retro formats. 2005 was a really popular retro format for a long time. Now 2010 is really popular. They also had side events for 2014 and 2019 formats that were not as popular. I think there were maybe 5 total over the course of the weekend that fired for 2014 and 2019 combined. But yeah, it was cool to see that, and it means that players like me who played Yu-Gi-Oh in high school and then kind of sort of dabble in it now can go back and can come to these tournaments and have something that they can compete in with their old cards, with that old mentality. And I think that it'd be really cool to see Pokemon do this too and say we're going to have a retro format side event at tournaments, like you said. Maybe it rotates. Maybe it's the same one that the community kind of picks and decides that this is a really fun retro format. Still has some depth to it. Let's try to play this and throw some tournaments for this. I don't know. I think it's really cool that Yu-Gi-Oh does this. And the topic that I wanted to debate really was if Pokemon had a super popular retro format that had side events at tournaments on a reasonably regular basis, had grassroots tournaments on a regular basis, what format would you want to see?
Like just one?
Talk me. If you had to pick one, what would it be?
I mean, that's just like so biased though. I'm just picking 2017 every time. Like I don't. Like there's no. I'm just that's the best one. It's the best VGC's ever been. So I'm sorry, but yeah, that's the only one.
I want to play 2019 Ultra Series.
Did you play 2019 Ultra Series?
No, I didn't. That was kind of when I first discovered VGC was a thing. And I was like, wow, this looks super cool. And like, I love the primals and there's mega evolutions and Z moves and it's insane. And I just always wanted to play it. But by the time I got in, it was too late.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah,
I'm going to be like, I changed my mind.
I was also going to say 2019, just off of the aspect of if we're playing a retro format that's like the most full, right? You have GS Cup, you have Z moves, you have megas, but I don't like the GS Cup aspect of it personally.
Right.
My retro answer would be 2018. I know Alex loves 2017, but I feel like 2018 was like the highest like skill ceiling format and like just the most enjoyable, I think, for my own biases. So I would love if 2018 was our retro, because we still got Z moves and megas at that point, you know. So I'd love that if that was our retro format.
Primals.
No, the primals. You don't need the primals. You don't need to see the primals in action.
So one thing that is different to the 2005 format and 2010 format, I'm a little in the weeds here, is that 2005 format was picked because it was very centralized around one deck that the mirror was perceived to be very skillful. And so there are now basically 2 decks that are worth playing. And they are hyper-optimized versions of the 2 good decks. And I think that if you went back and you started hosting Ultra Series tournaments, it would look a lot like that. I think that there probably are... like, the metagame was kind of sort of solved by the end of it. And there were really only... it felt to me like it was very cyclical between the top 3 teams, with Ray Ogre kind of being around as well as like the kind of top 4. I think that if we continue to play that format repeatedly, it might not be as fun. Even though I personally love Ultra Series, it's one of my favorite formats of all time. I do think that going back and playing it and trying to innovate on it would not be nearly as fun as 2017 and 2018. The other format that I think would be really cool to do a retro format in is 2015. because I think that Gen 6 is sort of like, I don't know, for me, Gen 6 is when I started playing VGC. So for me, it's like old school VGC. And also, it is very similar to that 2005 format where I described, where there is that one really, really good team in Chalk. And the mirror, I think, is really fun. You can't just play the mirror. But then there's also the like very anti-Chalk teams that also started doing very well. And if you look at the grassroots tournaments that are happening where we played 2015, a lot of those very anti-Chalk teams do win a lot of games. And so I think it probably does have, it's probably a cool format to revisit. And one of the formats I'd love to see at these at a retro format side event.
I think that's probably just a decent shout. Is like, I don't like NatDex formats. I prefer the regional dex formats, but the NatDex formats are going to be the perfect middle ground for any kind of retro format tournament thing. You know, the GS Cup ones are going to be very polarizing because they include those restricted Pokemon that carry a little more weight than you'd probably want to. And the regional dexes are going to exclude some things that you might have wanted to go back and revisit. So I can kind of get that. If you just want to play Landorus, Zapdos in every game of 2018, Joe, go ahead. Have fun with that. You go knock yourself out. Me,
But
I'm
what do
clicking
you-
Final Gambit, Trick Room,
can't do-
Oracle Eruption, Drampa, Hyper Voice. Bring me back.
You can't do like the accessibility issue is kind of what hurts us, because at least in Yu-Gi-Oh or other game or Magic or Pokemon, you can just buy the cards that are available. But like the odds that we actually play a 2019 format and all of the people show up are on the up and up with those legendaries is extremely low. That it's because it's been so many years.
Get your
people have lost their
3DS, get your copy of Ultra Sun, get your
Right.
Groudon, your Kyogre, get your Ivies right.
So that would probably be Pokemon's biggest like knock against that format. There'd be a lot of questionably obtained teams.
For sure.
That's true. Yeah.
One day we'll get our official battle simulator thing. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I guess those were all the questions that I had about other card games and stuff. Is there anything else that we want to talk about related to that, or do you want to hover to the Calc is right?
No, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So the Calc is right. This is a little game. Austin, Joe, do you know how this works?
Yes.
No, I'm not familiar.
Cool.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So this is a little game we like to play to end our podcast, where essentially one person is going to name out a damage calc or a attacking move versus a defensive Pokemon, and you have to pick a number which is the percentage of his hit points that is going to do. So in this case, if I have a Bomba Snow Blizzard versus Aegislash, you can see it. You can see on stream it does 16 to 20%. So if I were to say that, how much would Modest 220 special attack Bomba Snow Blizzard do to Aegislash? If you picked 16, you would be out of the range because it's 16.2 to 20%. If you picked 18, you'd be in the range. If you picked 21, you'd be out of the range. Your goal is to be in the range. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. And so
I have a relatively easy one to start us off with.
and so
it's
also
it's straightforward at least.
we all have one damage calc that we list out. So start thinking of a calc to give us. But yeah,
All right.
Alex, go ahead.
I'll start us off. Yeah. So we were just talking about Volcarona earlier, and I like to mention that as a Pokemon that can deal pretty well with Zamazenta. Of course, you got that Flame Body as a chance to activate, but let's just actually put it to the test and see how much it takes from a Body Press from Zamazenta with max defense. So the Zamazenta is max defense, and Volcarona, let's just give it max HP for defense. Like, we're not investing a lot in special attack or in defense. We might want to do speed or special attack or something. So it's max HP for defense Volcarona, taking a 252 Impush, whatever, Body Press from Zamazenta.
And no Swords of Ruin on the field or anything like that?
No, we don't have any like Chen Pao or anything. So yeah, just how much is this Body Press doing to a Volcarona? A relatively bulky Volcarona. By the way, Joe, one last thing is just verbally say, like, we just have everybody kind of say, like, all right, I'm ready, and then I will call on people to give our guesses. So just like whenever you're locked in, just like, let us know.
Okay,
you
so
good?
I'm ready.
Just do the attack again. Like I'm
Yeah,
trying to
so
think of it.
so it's max HP Volcarona for defense. Taking a body press from Zamazenta, just max defense. Like so, as strong as a Zamazenta's body press could be.
Okay.
All right. Austin, are you good too?
Yeah, I'm good.
Adi?
I'm good.
All right. We'll start with Austin then. Austin?
Okay, I'm guessing it does around like 25%.
25. All right. Adi?
Yeah.
I think that it 3 shots if you don't get burnt. So I'm gonna say 35%.
Joe, what are you feeling?
I was gonna say 30 before either of the answers.
All right,
So I'll stick with 30.
All right, let's see it.
Yeah, there's nothing actually on the line, so do just try to stick to your answer. Even if you're like, oh shit, I said 20 and they're all saying 80, like, well, maybe I just don't know my shit. But anyways, audio will go ahead and run it now on stream, and we'll get to the bottom of this. I don't know the answer, by the way. I could have played along myself technically, but I just kind of came up with this on the spot. So yeah, we're gonna make it down to 4 defense.
Ooh,
Adi.
right. Okay. I was looking at def. Yes. 4 defense. It is. Oh wow, that's doing way more than 84 defense. Okay, so it looks like it's doing 43.2 to 51. Is that right?
What?
I had a feeling it was going to be close to a 2-shot. Volcarona doesn't have an incredible defense stat. And we didn't invest in it at all. Maybe they're supposed to be, especially if you're trying to use it to beat Zamazenta. But yeah, that's Zamazenta for you. It just does so much.
Hey, a 3-hit KO is a 3-hit KO. That's all that matters.
unless that flame body comes through. Come on, Volk. Come on, Volk. Save us from this dog. All right, who's next? Anybody have one in mind?
I have one.
All right, go ahead.
So Lorcana has a bit of a rodent problem right now. This is Bucky,
No.
and he's one of the strongest cards in the format right now.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I'd say thematically on that and give a Pachirisu calc. So how much do y'all think that a max HP 116 special defense Pachirisu takes from a 252 modest choice specs Terra Starstrom Terapagos?
Okay, so Specs Tropicos go for the Starstorm into... Are we boosting nature on the Pachi or neutral?
It is neutral on the special defense.
Okay, 252, 116.
Mhm.
And this is a Terra Starstorm, and it's spread move, assumedly?
No, a single target.
With the big turtle or the little turtle?
The mid turtle.
Right, not the littlest one, but so it hasn't transformed yet. Okay.
It has not terra'd yed. It is a
It has
single
not terra'd,
target.
Okay.
Yeah.
I follow
Yeah.
that one. They're very different calcs. So yes, thank you. I had to make sure. Because we've seen, we've played enough with Terapagos to know that it does a lot different damage depending on if it has or hasn't terra'd yet.
I got
all
a
right.
number.
I'm ready. I'm ready too.
Okay. Do I call on the people?
Yeah, you pick whoever you want to start.
All right. Adi.
I believe in Pachirisu. I think it's doing 80%.
Okay. Joe.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 85 because I think Patricio took like 85% from the Draco from Salmons, and I feel like Terapagos is kind of outputting Draco amounts of damage, so I'm gonna go 85.
All right, Alex.
I guess less faith, but still there. 89 was my number. Let's go ahead and run it.
All right. If I'm looking at this right, 252 special attack, choice specs Terapagos, no Terra, doing into 252 116 Parachirisu is doing 83.2 to 98.8. So
all right, that looks like we have me and Joe, but no Adi.
Nope, I picked 80. Picked it a little too low, but a little much too much belief in Pachirisu. But it did live the attack.
He lives.
It redirects every attack except for Hyper Beam from Terapagos. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
All right, I also have a very topical calc from today. We got Alex's new favorite Pokemon, Electabuzz, on the field, but this time it's not clicking Fate, it's not clicking Volt Switch, it's clicking Thunder. You know it. How much is a 4 special attack Electabuzz Thunder doing it to let's say to a Dan, do we know Shiliang's spread on AV Kyogre?
It's public, but I'd have to go find it.
You know what? Let's just say 4 HP 4 HP 0 Spadef Kyogre. We'll just say they're mid bulk. So 4 special attack, Electabuzz into Thunder into Kyogre.
No, I like the Shiliang one. Let's do the Shiliang one. It's 252-12. You want to do that instead or no?
252, sure. 252 HP, 12 Spadef AV Kyogre from Electabuzz Thunder.
And they didn't Terra. They weren't scared, right?
No, they weren't scared.
They did not Terra Grass, and they did not get up light screen. They said, "Go ahead and hit me."
They said, "Go ahead, I dare you."
I got a number.
I'm ready to.
Yeah, I think I have a number.
All right, Joe, what are you thinking?
I'm going. I don't know, man. Electabuzz, it used to be fully evolved, right? So like it used to have good stats. So I'm gonna go like 61%. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but Thunder is Thunder.
Thunder's got a base 110 base power. That's a lot. It's a high number. All right, Alex, what do you think?
I'm going 40, and I hope I'm not being too confident.
All right, Austin.
I'm going with 47.
47. All right.
All right. I'm Electabuzz's big doubter. Let it be known. This was my pastor reason.
And so the Kyogre was 252-12 Assault Vest, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The Thunder is doing 29.9 to 35.7.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I believed in you, Electabuzz.
That's embarrassing. I was way too optimistic in Electabuzz.
Yep, it's not quite getting there.
Man, even my original number after I decided to give it a bit more faith, I had like 36, and that would have been like a high roll, like not even a high roll, but oh my god. All right, so Joe, do you happen to have one ready?
I do actually have one here. I have the precise calc already. I built a Lunala team with the Oko Discord, and we worked on it for a long time. And it's a Calm Mind Lunala, so take that into account. So we put a lot in the bulk, a lot in all these other stats, and we put the leftover 100 EVs into modest Lunala. Okay, so it is a +2. 100 special attack modest Lunala Terra. Well, I guess Terra Fairy doesn't matter, but Moongeist Beam into Terra Water Calyrex Ice Rider, and so it's 252 HP. 4 special defense, because our whole plan was like, let's just boost up twice and then let's just one shot everything. So that's the calc. Is a +2 100 special attack EV Lunala Moongeist Beam into Terra Water 252 HP 4 special defense Calyrex Ice Rider.
I'm ready.
Right, I got a number.
I'm also ready.
All right, we'll start with Adi.
All right. This sounds like a roll to KO, so I'm saying exactly 100.
Okay, awesome.
I thought that Calyrex would be able to take it. I'm thinking like 78.
All right, and Alex?
I guess I'm kind of split in the middle again, but 87. I guess no, I haven't been splitting the middle. I've been on the ends. But 87 is the number for this one. I know kind of well how much Moongeist does without +2, so I'm just +2ing it in my head, and then chopping a bit off because I'm usually calcing against maxed modest. This one is a little weaker than that.
Right.
We'll see how good my intuitions are, though.
It looks like your intuition is close. It's 67.1 to 79.7 is what I'm seeing.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay, so Austin was in there, though. Let's go.
Yeah, I remember I was like on Showdown playing, and I'm like, oh, I'm +2. I've set up. I've won the game, and then I do like 68% to this Calyrex, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's a
knew
thick
that
horse.
even with Max, I knew that a regular Moongeist is doing well below half. So, gosh, this is tough to see. Wait, does +3 is actually less than like +1, +3 on +2, right? So I don't even know if you get there with one more boost, right?
You might not. No.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, you don't quite get there. Um, I was trying to do it. I was trying to internalize my Calc Shadow Calcs, and I was trying to think of it in that. But obviously, I've clearly forgotten how much that does. How much +2 Astral Rush does, but it's pretty comparable. But yeah, you gotta. It's annoying because you gotta helping hand it, and then you can KO it. But if you get to +3, you don't actually knock it out. But yeah, that is.
Tough.
It's there's a reason it's not seeing that much use.
The
It's
bulky
sadly.
horse.
But yeah, that I think is going to do it from us. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's almost like a bi-week podcast. We didn't have a ton to talk about this week, but I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all of our other escapades outside of VGC and how we could, our thoughts on applying those things to VGC. So yeah, as per usual, if you missed out on any part of this podcast, it will be up on YouTube tomorrow. So make sure to go check that out. And Joe, did you have any anything you wanted to plug?
Yeah, thanks for letting me be on. It's my first time on Tub Take, so I'm really
Let's
really
go.
excited. Thank you for having me here. Shout outs to the OCO podcast. That's the podcast that Sierra Dawn and I co-host, where we talk about commentary and Pokemon and other things. We have a Discord if you'd like to join our OCO Discord, but you can follow me on Twitter at Zemanon. It's my gamer tag, XEMINAN. Besides that, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, especially on short notice. Austin, giving you the same shot. Do you have anything that you wanted to shout out? Anything you wanted to plug?
Nah, I'm good. You don't need to follow me. It's fine.
Nice.
It might be true. I haven't seen
Unless
you
your name's
tweet.
Crystal.
I don't think I've seen you tweet in years. So
Unless your name's Crystal, yeah.
I don't honestly. I think I checked when we were starting the stream, and you actually haven't tweeted in almost a year now. So
That is true. Yes.
don't follow him on Twitter. But yeah, Alex, do you wanna send someone a raid right now? But yeah, that is going to.
I'll look.
I've got all my windows are all messed up right now. But yeah, that's gonna do it from us. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And Alex, who are we rating?
I'm gonna throw it over Tapo Wapo, your favorite Trick Room streamer.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys. Tell them where you came from, and until next time, we'll see you all later.